This is going to be all vibes, just fun, just checking in. So last second, obviously, because I got a text yesterday and I was just like, oh, it's such a great idea. And I had talked to Ryan on the podcast when Ryan came on and was like, oh, good. Yeah. Wasn't that fun, man?
It was good.
He's just the dedication and the belief and the intent. Like you come out of that conversation. I don't know how anybody could not be just entirely enthusiastic about everything USL Spokane. You know what I mean?
And I think his openness to just how the league works and clubs work within the league just gives a lot of intel for the regular fan who doesn't know how that works.
Totally.
So I thought it was really insightful as well.
To your point, I had no fewer than like 5 people in my little nerd circle of other supporters groups, like this is just how this world works, right? Who cited things from that podcast.
Yeah.
And were like, oh, I didn't know that that's how contracts work. But Ryan Harnato said it on Benji's podcast. And I'm like, man, he's dropping some knowledge. It really helps supporters because 100%. I think, not to put you in the spot of speaking to this, but the USL in terms of transparency and just like let people know some things that they might not know. I think it actually do the league a bit of good to just have a little more information about how the clubs operate, about how players' contracts and everything else works, because people love that stuff.
I feel like as a fan who doesn't have the knowledge, there tends to be let's say a coach is going through a bad period and his job's under pressure or, whatever that is.
Yeah.
A preconceived idea of, no idea of how things actually work on the back end with contracts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Having more knowledge about that gives the fan a little bit more understanding and maybe a little bit more respect and a little bit more time for the coach now to be like, hey, now I actually have that knowledge. I understand now how difficult it is. Now, okay, I get why it's been challenging to build an expansion team in the first year. Yeah. Why it takes 6 months to build a full squad of 24 players.
Totally.
So it's like, I think it helps.
I had a feeling there were moments from that podcast, and we even said it in real time, like, I've got to get Leigh on the podcast. This is a different podcast than one we're going to do today. I wouldn't even know if I'd call this a podcast. It's just a check-in after the end of the season and the playoff win, which we're going to get to. But there were moments where I was like, oh, this is so helpful to not, because I know a lot of the things that Ryan shared with me on that podcast, but it wasn't my place to say those things, if that makes sense. Like, I wasn't going to go on my podcast and say some of the things that I understood about the intricacies of contracts and how building this squad and, the injuries that we had and all the other type of stuff. It's like, I'd rather have that come directly from either Ryan or you or somebody from the club, because me just like saying that and speculating on it doesn't give an opportunity for the club to really peel back the layers and say, hey, supporters, this is actually why can be so challenging in the first year. And it's why, let's get to the topic. We just jumped right in.
Let's go.
This is the Spokane Soccer Show. I am your host, Benji Wade. On today's show, and joining me to serve up only the best vibes about all things soccer in the fine city of Spokane, it is Velocity FC and playoff game-winning head coach Leigh Veidman. Welcome back to the show, Coach Leigh.
It's good to be back.
Yeah, man. You're now the first guest. I don't include Scott or Jamie because they come on as like my co-hosts, but first 3-time guest. So that's a distinction in and of itself.
Well, it's a pleasure.
It's nowhere near the honor, though, I got to start by saying congratulations, but I don't really want to because I know there's still work to do. When I tagged a few of you on a few posts after the game, the win against Northern Colorado, Javi immediately messaged me and he says, thanks, mate. And then he says, it's in all caps, it's not done yet. So we're going to start. Talk to me about your feeling. The last time I saw you was at the season ticket holder event. And we were talking about the rough run of form to end the regular season and going into the playoffs, just going into that game against Northern Colorado, just like, talk me through like what you were feeling going into that game.
Yeah, it's funny. I just got asked that question about 30 minutes ago when I did my call with the commentators for the game. So
for the upcoming game?
Yeah. So the lead-in was really no different. Actually, I was very surprised at how relaxed the group was for being a new team. Some guys had never experienced this before. Obviously, we've got some guys in the locker room who have, but the vibes were relaxed and chill. And I'd had a few conversations with the leadership group, and I was like, "Hey, how's the group feeling?" They're just like, "It's another game." And that little conversation there, I was like, That made me feel pretty good.
That makes you feel good?
Yeah.
That, like, nobody's freaking out and they're not tense or whatever?
Yeah, listen, I address it head on. I'm like, listen, it's a playoff game.
Yeah.
Nerves may happen. It might not happen right now, but you get in that bus to the stadium, you feel nerves, good. It means you're human.
Yeah.
Use the emotion right. That's okay. But as of right now, go about your day-to-day business. Don't change your routine. Players tend to be very, very superstitious and just love their routines.
Of course.
You change that, it throws them off a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody just was like, another game. So when I got that information, I was like, I feel pretty good about this. I didn't anticipate the result that happened, but I felt pretty good about it.
Yeah.
So normal lead-in, we didn't really change anything. That's a key thing in this time of the year.
When you say not changing anything, do you mean in terms of formation, mentality, tactical approach, all the stuff, or just
basically everything? I mean, we changed back to the back four 3 games ago.
Yeah, that was a couple games ago. Yeah,
a little bit off with that.
Yeah. Was it back to the 4-2-3-1? Not that matters, but yeah.
Okay. In general, it varies based on opposition.
Yeah.
But no, what I mean more is like just daily routines. What's our training environment like? We usually have a 4-day build up to a game. Very rarely do we have a 5, so maintaining that. Each day has its own objectives.
Yeah.
So you tend to get in a cadence throughout the year to where the players typically understand what the objective of each training session is, because it tends to have just a trend. So they get in a certain routine, a certain rhythm, and it becomes comfortable.
Yeah.
So we stuck with that and didn't really change anything. And we got to train in our own environment on Friday, which is nice. Traveling in the afternoon, got to Colorado at a good time in the day. So yeah, everything just felt good about the week.
I have to paint a picture for you, because here I'm leaving the South Hill, which is, Spokane, South Hill, right? And not 10 minutes before I get in my car, there's a hailstorm. And on the way to Flat Stick, I call Mike Policio. I think you know Mike from Spokane Shadow. And I said, hey, there's a hailstorm on the way. I just want to take your temperature. What do you think that means? If that's symbolism, he goes, I think we're going to get our asses kicked.
Thanks, Mike.
I know. And I said, it is hard to read a hailstorm in Spokane as being a good thing when we're on the road. It's like, but it could symbolize anything. And I was like, yeah, God, that you're worrying me. It's like, I'd hope that doesn't happen, but I can't wait to see how Leigh has set this team up. Is he going to set them up the same way? And this is right before lineups were announced and so forth. And I have to admit, I get to Flat Stick. By the way, the supporters, I don't know if you saw imagery. It was unbelievable how many people were at Flat Stick. And they were at Flat Stick to watch that game.
Yeah.
Like, no shit. It was not anybody there like playing mini golf and, oh yeah, by the way, there's a soccer game on TV. No, there were so many supporters. That place was packed to the gills with Velocity supporters. And I was a little overwhelmed. Like, I'm not a big crowd guy.
Yeah.
And I walked in there and couldn't believe what I saw. And I grabbed the only 2 spots that were left, my wife Ray and I stood there and I was just like, holy shit. And I sent a message on Instagram. I was like, this is a soccer town. Like, it's unreal. And I watched the first few minutes and I'm talking to Ray and I was like, I think from what I'm seeing and what I expect to happen is I'll bet Leigh's going to have a bit of a siege mentality and not give up any soft goals and really batten down the hatches and give away possession and counterattack and pick his spots. And I thought that's what happened for the first 15 minutes. But I think I was wrong, because I watched the game again today and I was like, oh man, I couldn't see much of the game at Flat Stick the way that I normally would if I was critically watching the game. But when I watched it back today, I was like, no. And what you're telling me about the team and the way that they were feeling going into the game, not nerves, whatever, just doing their routine and feeling relaxed, it kind of showed. They played with, like, it was immediate. The focus, the concentration, just you were playing your stuff, the stuff that had led to success early on in the season. And despite the how the season ended for the 7-game run without getting a win, it was like you still played your stuff, but it was just, I don't know. When I watched the game today, I was just like, I couldn't believe the connectedness in the team and their focus and their intent. Tell me what you saw when you were watching the game and how it might have differed from the games that led up to that game against Northern Colorado.
Yeah, you always know that when you go into an environment like that in Colorado, which is difficult, it's altitude, it's cold, it's not a great surface, it's not a great environment, to be candid.
Right.
So it's just a difficult place to go for all those reasons, and it plays into Colorado's favor, and they've used it way to their advantage this year, as they should.
Yeah.
but they're also a very good team, very well coached by Eamon, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of good players in the team. And we knew going in there that they're probably going to have a good start. They're at home. They're feeling good about themselves. They've just won the cup, had a great run into this game. So they're probably going to strong start, no problem. It went a little longer than I would like their start.
Yeah,
I think it was about 20 minutes.
I was going to say about 20-minute mark.
It was about 20 minutes. But once that happened, we started to turn the screw a little bit. I started to notice some ways they were defending and started to counter that a little bit. Made some adjustments at halftime. And yeah, within 10 minutes or so, the guys just started to keep taking over, attacked the right spaces at the right times. And then one of our biggest things that we've been talking about for a while is we're really good at getting into the final third. We're really good at getting into crossing areas. We're really good at getting into the 18-yard box, but it's getting the bodies in there to get on the end of those passes or those crosses. And we actually did a decent job at all those things 2 weeks ago versus Colorado, but we didn't get the bodies in the box to put the ball in the net. It's something we've just been continuously working on. So I show multiple clips of the guys over the past couple of weeks, and it's the difference is 8 to 10 yards. You get that 8 to 10 yards, you're going to score goals. We played excellent versus Knoxville. Obviously we didn't get the goal, but I think you saw the work of the guys and the commitment to them taking that final step, making that final run, making a 30-yard run in the transition moment to get inside of that penalty spot. That's where pretty much 2 of the 3 goals came from.
I think we mentioned it on the podcast, Ryan and I, that I thought it was such a great way to end the season in the lead up to the game against Northern Colorado, because it felt like, minus the goals, they weren't there, but it was like the team was clicking and the team was playing with solidity and
a clean sheet,
togetherness, and the clean sheet was there. And I thought they pretty much dominated Knox, minus scoring a goal. It was an incredible result and performance against Northern Colorado, Leigh. I just am so proud of the team. I'm so happy for the team. And I know there's still work to be done because we're going into Madison, but I just want to start there. Velocity FC 3, Hailstorm 0. You've spoken to this a little bit, but where do you think the team found its success in that game? Where did it come from? If you had to just pick a spot, and if it's not something you've already said, then
the success came really from stopping them doing what they do. They can be very effective in the space behind the back line, very effective in transition. So we took that space away, and really that's what it came down to. Once we took their space away and they had no other way to break us down or attack, that enabled us to gain possession of the ball and then go about what we want to do, which is play football. And exactly how the 3 goals came for us, to be honest.
So it felt like if you took away the danger posed by, let's just spell it out, Bruno Rendon and Opara to some extent on the other side, those 2 partnerships, really, really incredibly effective. Derek and Masongo defending Bruno down the right. And on the other side, you had Kamarni and Hobby with Opara and Billy King. The counterpart on the other side is, what's that kid's name? Noah Powder.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So was that the game plan going in? And that's what you think kind of led to hey, if we can take away what they're really, really good at, then we can start to do our stuff?
Listen, you analyze teams and create a plan for teams, because the team is always the first thing. Then you start to go into the units and the individuals. How does this midfield unit move and rotate? How do they interact with the back line? There's many different layers. But yes, Rendon is one of them. He's very dangerous, but we can't figure about Hood. You've got Powder on the other side. You've got Martinez between the lines. You've got some excellent players in all different parts of the pitch there. But they tend to be a team who thrive on teams who want to try and press a little bit higher, have the back line a little bit higher, and then you hit the ball over your back line to Hood, or they hit the big switch from the centre back or full back into the opposite winger going in behind the lines. And they catch you, as they almost did with Anwar's shot off the post. Oof. Just when you think you're in a good moment.
Bruno picks up his head, boom. Yeah.
Hood is off. You think you're in a good moment, that's where they get you. So it was about minimizing the space for them to do that. We're not going to be able to stop it every time, but that's where I think we got our success from, because now when we started to take that game away from them, which has brought them so much success, that enabled us now to see them get a little bit more frustrated, overplay a little bit more, which then gives us the ball, and now we can dictate what we want to do.
The Spokane Soccer Show is supported by Spokane City Credit Union. Are you a customer at a big dumb bank? Well, stop it. At a bank, you're just a customer. At a credit union, you're a member and a shareholder. You can help make decisions about what the credit union does do or doesn't do. Banks just want to get bigger by swallowing up smaller banks one at a time until there's only one or two banks left. Nobody wants that. Well, except for big banks. Since 1934, Spokane City Credit Union has remained independent, relevant, and local, with a focus on the financial needs of individuals and families in Spokane City. Go to sccu.net, Spokane City Credit Union, serving Spokane one member at a time. If you could shout out any particular players and how they performed in the game, like who comes to mind, or if you want to talk to any other aspects of the game that like, is there somebody you would like to give their flowers?
It's like asking a parent who the favorite child is.
And it's tough, man.
It is.
The whole team played well. And I'm not just going by foot mob stats. They all played so well.
We did. I mean, to get a result like that, you've got to have a complete performance.
Totally.
Even the guys who came off the bench.
Yeah.
So I can't give anybody. I think it was just an incredible team performance, and the attackers showed up when they needed to, and the back line showed up when they needed to. I mean, the fact that we got a clean sheet against Colorado, hardly nobody does that. And hardly nobody scores 3 goals against Colorado. So
yeah,
it's really hard to give it to one guy.
Well, I'm going to, because I can't help myself. No, not one guy, but there's a couple things in the game that I just wanted to like take your temperature on, because I was just like, they stuck out to me. One was Anwar's shot off the post, but what led to it? And it was Javi gave the ball away on the right side of the attack and down the right channel. But instead of, falling into a deep position to defend again after giving the ball away, he just followed his nose of like, no, I'm going to go get the recovery. And he does, and it leads to the counter. And the team played some nice stuff out on the right wing, and then he finds himself in the box linking up with Anwar. And it felt like a very descriptive moment of things that happened throughout the game, of second balls and effort and intensity. Is that something that you think was characteristic of the team in general? The second balls and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, that's our identity. That's what we work on, to try and be strong in those areas. Not just because I think it's an important component of football, but each league in the world has got its own trends and nuances within that. USL tends to be very transitional. So for you to be successful in the USL, counter-pressing, winning duels, first, second balls, aerial duels, etc. Incredibly important. So in that moment, Javi lost it, counter-pressed, won the duel, came out and started the attack. And yeah, I would say that's something that we're trying to build into our identity.
I thought he has been playing really, really well lately. And I know it's hard for you to probably talk about individual players on your team, but shout out Javi. Let's talk about momentum. The team had gone without a win in 7 games and had only scored 2 goals. Northern Colorado, meanwhile, the opposite in form here could not be more stark. They hadn't lost in 7 games, and they had just won the Jaeger Cup. Going into that game, how much of that played into your thinking, or did you just think, you know what, we're just going to take our shots?
No, it didn't really. I know as well that when you get into playoffs, form goes out the window. It really does. Form goes out the window. I think the biggest thing for us was understanding that in the games that we didn't win, Greenville, forget the one before that.
Omaha?
Omaha was one of them. There was another one too.
Oh, it was Central Fuego.
Yes, yes. In each of those games, we had good periods of time. Like Omaha, listen, we've gone there both times and we've got it handed to us. Yeah. Fair enough, better team. But the response in that game and how we played to close out that game, we arguably could have had 2 or 3 goals in that 30-plus minute spell, roughly around that. Fuego, it is what it is. We played well. Greenville, we were down. We have that incredible fight to come back and almost get ourselves back in the game. You have the Knoxville performance. We didn't win the game. But, the results are the main thing. But as a coach, you've got to look at the performance, the fight, the intangibles within the performance, not just the result. And that's where we've had to really dig into the perspective of these results and be like, hey, yes, we didn't win the game, but look at how you played. Look there and there and there. Look at the things you did. But I think that Knoxville game was really big for us. One, because we got a clean sheet, but it's hard to use the word dominate because we didn't score, but from the attacking side of the game up until the finish,
Yep.
we dominated.
Totally.
Arguably, and I don't know if this is still the truth, but statistically, I think the best defensive team in the league. It may have changed now.
Ryan was saying, and I take his word for it, that best defensive team in the United States.
Yeah, I haven't, in professional football, I haven't looked at it in a little bit, so it may have changed, so I don't want to get quoted on that, but they're a very good defensive team.
But that's how that's where they got their success.
Yeah. So to do that against them was huge. So
Totally.
I think that game was fantastic for us to give the team a ton of confidence going into the Colorado.
Collins shot off the post, man. If that had gone in, I'm telling you, this city would have lost its mind. All right, let's talk about the goals.
Okay.
Goal number 1, minute 53, Luis Heel, his 11th goal of the season. Shout out Luis, just continues doing his thing. On this goal, but overall the whole team, all game, and you just talked about it a little bit, those 8 to 10 yards, just movement in the opponent's box and relentless recoveries and second balls. That's exactly how that goal happened. I mean, if Luis stops his run at any moment when he's in the box and doesn't do that thing where he's just like preying on that counter press, that moment of just like, there's a mistake about to happen. I'm going to get to this, and just kind of, you know, the elation of the team. Can you talk to about that? Because we had fantastic video of the stream on ESPN of you and Renato immediately hugging.
Funny thing about that, Renato got a lot of slack in his text after the game. Not necessarily congratulating him about the win, but also about how he jumped into my hand. So he got a lot of slack for that after the game. So it was kind of funny. But
it happened on the first 2 goals.
Yeah. So the first goal, it was kind of funny because we were on the left-hand side and we came out of that. Well, it started with the throw-in, actually. We were on that left-hand side, and I can't remember who it was, but we passed back into Andre, I believe. And I think I was shouting, switch, 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 or something along those lines, because it was really compact on that side of the pitch. So I think Andre opens his body to come back out, but then he comes back in. And Andre does what he does. He sees these little moments and gaps that he just sniffs out as an attacking midfielder, an 8. And he broke a pass, and we got through. And I mean, I was shouting them to do the opposite thing, so I'm glad he didn't listen to me.
That's awesome. I want to piggyback on something you said just a moment ago about that dip in form in terms of the results, while also trying to iterate and learn with a brand new team. I mean, it's reacting to, from game to game, this is the expansion team factor of it all. And I like how you described that each one of those games had different characteristics of, okay, we're learning. And those 7 games, I don't know if you have the performance against Northern Colorado without that journey, right? Who could say?
Absolutely. I mean, the maturity we showed from minute 1 to minute 96, I think it was incredible.
Absolutely.
And the maturity after each goal, because we knew Colorado didn't start well, and Colorado do not play well for long, So after that goal, the message was right away was expect a response.
Totally.
Expect a response. Yeah. And the guys took it on the shoulders and got back control of the ball when he could and started to do their thing, and that's when the second goal came.
And that's why I felt like I shouted out Javi. I have to shout out Derek again for his defending of Bruno Rondon, man. I mean, it came up on the podcast with that flat stick that we did. Goal number 2, Anwar gets a second for the club. Everything about this goal was awesome. So Marcelo plays a pretty heavy ball to Jack, whose first touch is just awesome. And he is sprinting through the midfield into space, finds Camarney, and Camarney didn't get what he has deserved, in my view, which is a goal contribution or a goal. He has deserved one or the other, for sure, for his endeavor. His work rate and his moments of like that one, which was clever. He just immediately sees that Javi's on the overlap and sends the ball down to him. And what I love is that Anwar is right there, splits those center backs, makes a perfect run into the box, and it's like, bang. NoCo cut to pieces. So you tell me what you saw in that second goal. What made you happy about it?
The second one was from a throw-in too on the left-hand side.
Yep.
So you're right. It comes in. I think Marcelo gets it, plays Jack. And this is what I was talking about before with our tactical adjustment at halftime, is because all of their midfielders were so man for man, especially on the throw-in, it left that big space on the opposite side. So when we came out of that into Marcelo and into Jack,
Yeah.
he did a really good job to unmark himself from that midfielder who was kind of man for him. And that's where our opposite winger needed to come in that space that was vacant in front of the fullback.
Mm-hmm.
So the fullback was probably not going to follow. And if he was going to pass him on to the centre-back. So Kamani gets just in that space right there. Jack finds him. And that's where it pulls Rendon inside and opened up the space for Javi to get in and around. So, the boys executed that one perfectly.
Just things clicking, like everything. It was like a timepiece. It was beautiful. Goal number 3, only 4 minutes later, minute 68. I still can't believe Jack's goal. Andre plays a through ball down the left to Masongo. And have you watched do you ever watch the ESPN streams?
Yes.
Okay.
I watched this one.
You did? Okay.
I usually watch it on Spidio, but Colorado don't have Spidio, so I had to watch it on ESPN.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so the commentator in that moment has kind of a funny moment. He was like, fantastic through ball by Andre Lewis, A+.
Oh, yeah.
And
I remember that.
And right as he's saying that, Masongo's getting on the end of it down that left channel. And just I don't know what happened. Let's admit, it was poor defending. It had 2 defenders on him. But it's one of those things that Masongo does. He puts defenders on their back heels. He puts them on roller skates when he starts to attack on ball, because his 1v1 attacking skill is probably as good as it gets in USL's League One. And this is the moment. It's like Jack is trailing the play at the top of the box. Masongo has 2 defenders, 6s and 7s, because of his threat on the ball. He squares it for Jack, but it's like, because you mentioned the terrible pitch, I have to point that out. That ball is like hopping, and it's not because of Masongo's pass. It's because the pitch sucks. But Jack, like, first touch, first time, and buries it. Like, it was the most, what a way to score your first professional goal. Talk to me about Jack Denton and his play in this game.
First of all, I gave him some crap after the game because I was like, hey, Britt, can you get Jack some ice for his shin? Because I was giving him some crap about it coming off his shin, but...
It may have.
No, he was very adamant it didn't, and when I looked it back, it didn't. It was really well executed. But what you might not notice about Colorado's pitch on the feed is, because it's a baseball field, where the foul line is from the diamond, it actually slopes down. So it slopes down from roughly the penalty spot, maybe between the penalty spot to the 6-yard box. So it's around, 6 to 8 yards. There's a hard slant that comes down. So when that pass from Masongo, I don't know if he actually just had poor technique or what, but I think what happened is as he passed it, it came up the slope, which gave the ball a little bit of a hop.
Like mini golf.
Yeah. It gave the ball a little bit of a hop.
Yeah.
And then, Jack caught it just well enough to where it was killing away from the keeper in the side net. And so, again, just a reiteration of the fact that if you look at Jack's run and the movement from the other guys in the box, the willingness to get into the box to make that final 8 to 10 yard run, it's going to pay off. And I think that was a testament to that willingness to do that.
Since the beginning of this podcast, I probably haven't celebrated or praised my excitement for a player more than Jack Denton. I mean, I think he's just his ceiling is very, very high, but his development has been, it's been a journey for him this year, and I've really, really enjoyed watching it. But the one thing that I have had a note in my mind on for a while now has been, he's got so much quality that I've always felt like he could stand to be a little more aggressive in front of goal. Take a shot now and again, Yeah. You love to see it. It was, I could just see his excitement, and I couldn't be more stoked for him. So one thing that I want to point out to you, I don't know if you've heard this from people who watch the game or noticed it yourself, we could hear so much of you.
Yeah. I figured that out afterwards when I watched that. I was like, oh no.
Yeah, what was that like for you?
It was horrendous. I got back to my phone, and I got it like videos and texts about things that they could hear on the camera.
Welcome to League One, man. What's with the hot mics?
Yeah.
I thought the Lexington one was bad.
I don't know.
With the kid crying and shit. This was it was like they did this on purpose.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think
I don't know why, but
I'm not a conspiracy theorist.
Once I heard it, I was like, oh, come on.
It was a little conspicuous. Yeah. It was like the one person's voice we can hear is the head coach of the opposing team.
Yeah. Maybe they'll pass it on to Madison. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Like you could hear instructions, like pretty specific stuff. I'm sitting there just kind of going, "What the hell?" Like,
yeah, I heard the
Anwar, tranquilo.
Yeah. The Scout Spanish.
Scout Spanish. That's awesome, man. Welcome to League One. We have hot mics. I shouted out the defensive partnerships.
This episode of the Spokane Soccer Show is brought to you by Feast World Kitchen. If you know, you know. If you don't know, I'm about to tell you. Think authentic, mouth-watering cuisine from all over the world delivered to your mouth right here in downtown Spokane. Here's the part you might not have known. Feast is a nonprofit that effectively creates chef entrepreneurs by offering a bunch of programs where immigrants and former refugees learn career skills, earn income from their food sales, and build connections in the community. Quick sidebar, I still have daydreams about the beef sambusas and the spicy jollof rice that we had during the AFCON watch party in January. But don't take my word for it. Head down to Feast World Kitchen on 3rd Avenue, follow them on Instagram, or go to their website at feastworldkitchen.org.
How did the team react after the game? I have to know. Like, what was the vibe, man?
Oh, it was chaos. Yeah, it was chaos. It was brilliant, though. Listen, they've earned it. They've earned a good celebration. To do that in Colorado,
Like that.
in the fashion he did,
Jesus.
coming off a little bit of, a difficult stretch of results, but knowing they've performed decent. But I think there was a quiet confidence going into the game, but there was a level of, I would say, a little bit of relief as well. But doing that in the fashion he did was quite cool. So yeah, they had a nice little celebration, and so they should.
I look at this game against Madison, which is, for clarity for anybody who wants to make sure that they know what's up. Saturday, the 509 Syndicate and myself will be down at Flat Stick starting at 3 o'clock. We'll get to watch Velocity take on Forward Madison at 4 o'clock. Zephyr FC will also be playing at the same time in Carolina, so that's going to be interesting. We're going to be watching two games at the same time. It's going to be awesome. What I'm excited for is I feel like it's a chance to reset this particular fixture with Forward Madison. First game, it's Brooks' first game. We underperformed our XG. They totally outperformed theirs. They had like 0.75 XG, but scored 3 pretty world-class goals. Second game we played against them, Luis is hurt inside the first 2 minutes. Ahmed suspended. Like, neither of these games just had the right circumstances. This game, we're coming in firing. Team is fit. We're clicking. And so I feel like I'm excited for this game because I feel like it's a chance for us to reset that fixture in terms of what it has looked like in the first two times we played them.
Yeah, I hope you're right. But yeah, it's listen, they're a team who want to play football. We're a team who want to play football. They've got a very, I would say, chaotic style and attack in terms of a lot of rotations, which makes it very difficult for teams to defend against.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of different rotations and movements. They've got a lot of width. They've got guys who can go behind if they need to go long. So they've had 2-3 years to build their identity. They've had 2-3 years to bring in guys who fit that and depth that fit that.
Yeah.
So they've got multiple guys who can step up. So their variety in attack is very different than Colorado. So they're going to be a different test to defend against.
No matter what happens, this team not only made the playoffs in their first ever year as a club, but they also defeated the second-ranked Jaeger Cup winning team on the road and with the biggest margin of victory in our club's young history. When you hear the description of that moment, that's where we're at, what does that mean to you, Coach?
My instant response is we want more.
Yeah?
Candidly. Because I think just the natural competitor in us just doesn't want to settle for this. You've got all the stereotypes, and I may have said this to you in the podcast earlier on, but I know I've said it to the team a lot and maybe in the media, is, yeah, we're an expansion team. Traditionally, expansion teams don't do well, but we don't want to live to that stereotype. We're going to do everything we can to knock that stereotype out the park. And part of us this year, our goal this year, the realistic goal was, hey, can we get a proper identity in place by the end of the season? And if something more comes from that, amazing. But the competitive deep down in us, yeah, we want to play good football. We want to get our identity in place. But getting into playoffs, I think, was always something deep down that we all wanted. But we've got to balance that emotion and the reality, right? The reality is it's statistically tough to do this as an expansion team. So we knew that, hey, we've got to keep our 2 feet in the ground. But the fact we did it was incredible. Some of the statistics that you're throwing out, make it feel more incredible. But there's still that deep burning desire to push on and do more. So if you zoom out and look at it all, it's incredible. It really is what
It really
what
is.
the guys have done, what the club has done, what the community has done to show up and
What you've done, Coach.
and help us. But yeah, I think the guys really want more, and are they capable of getting more? 1000% they are. But we got to show up on Saturday, and we got to go in there.
If they win this game, they're in a final. You were in a final about a year ago with Charleston. Is there a sense of playing with house money, like this is a free hit, insofar as, we weren't expected to get this far, and we finished 7th, and here we are. We got through the first round of this playoff, and we knocked off the number 2 team. Like,
Yeah, I think
does it like give you a little bit of some relaxation knowing that?
Naturally it does, because I actually said this to the group the other day. Externally, there's no pressure.
Totally.
Like we have achieved a lot this year. That
You're the underdog.
Yeah, not a lot of people have achieved. Internally, there's a desire to do more.
Yeah.
So that's a nice place to be. I think I've always said you want to be the hunter, not the hunted. I kind of like it that way. But again, it's all about game day. It's all about going out there and executing. And if we go out and play like we did against Colorado, there's absolutely no reason why we can't put ourselves in a final. But we've got to go out there and get the job done.
Look, man, this team is so well loved and supported in its first year. The indication, evidence of that was, we saw it last Saturday when I could not believe how many people were at Flat Stick.
I'll tell you this, like I didn't see the videos for a while after the game. I got emotional.
Dude.
I got emotional. And when you said it before the start of the podcast, I actually got chills and got emotional.
I could tell, man.
It's
I get emotional talking about it.
Yeah. It was incredible to see that. We're just happy we're able to give the city something to be proud of, something to cheer for.
There were people who came up to me, Leigh, and said that's one of a sporting memory that they're never going to forget, and it's on par with whether it's the Seahawks or any of their favorite teams in other sports or their favorite other soccer teams. Like, that's how it felt to them.
Yeah.
And some people were telling me it was more than that, because it's a team that they walk to see, or they drive 5-10 minutes.
They're emotionally attached to it.
They get,
It's the same for me, like different context. But when Liverpool made the Champions League final in 2005 and had that crazy comeback, like there's a moment in time that just sticks with you because you got this crazy emotional attachment to it. And I can see exactly why that game the other day would bring that same emotional attachment and feeling. Like that is something that sticks for a long time in your head.
And for a lot of people in this town, including myself, man,
and the fact that
first time.
Yeah, the fact we were able to give that to somebody, that's invaluable. That's special. So we're happy we can do that. We really are. We want to provide more of that, whether it's this season, year 2, year 3 and beyond. But I can speak on behalf of the group. We love you guys. We love the fans. And we appreciate you more than anything.
That was going to be my final question. You just answered it. Do you have a message for the supporters? And I think you just did it.
That was it.
Coach Leigh Veidman, pleasure, my friend.
Yeah, thank you.
Go get him.
Thank you.
Up the fall.
Yeah.